In the late 13th century, the shadow of the Mongol Golden Horde once again fell across Eastern Europe. Twice before, Poland had felt the fury of the Mongol storm, invasions that left scars of fire and slaughter across the land. But this time, things would be different. This is the story of the Third Mongol invasion of Poland, a tale not just of survival, but of defiance, cunning, and the birth of legends. Our story begins in 1287. The Mongol Empire, though fractured, was still a terrifying force. Two powerful Khans, Talabuga and the legendary Nogai, set their sights on the Kingdom of Poland. Their goals were simple: plunder the wealthy region of Lesser Poland and punish its ruler, Duke Leszek the Black, for meddling in their sphere of influence. They assembled a formidable host of 30,000 warriors, a mix of elite Mongol cavalry and vassal troops from the neighboring lands of Ruthenia. The plan, masterminded by Nogai Khan, was a classic Mongol strategy, a devastating one-to-punch design for speed and surprise. The army split into two columns. The larger force, 20,000 strong under Talabuga, would thunder north towards the city of Sandomierz. Meanwhile, Nogai himself would lead 10,000 hardened Mongol horsemen south, striking towards the heart of the kingdom, the capital city of Kraków. After laying waste to the countryside, they would reunite, a single unstoppable tide, to sack Kraków and carry their loot back east. It was a plan that had worked before, a plan built on terror and shock. But the Poland of 1287 was not the Poland of 40 years prior. This time, the Poles were ready. While caught by surprise, they didn't panic. Instead of foolishly riding out to meet the Mongol horde in the open field, they adopted a new, clever strategy. Their forces would concentrate in newly fortified castles and cities. Poland had spent decades upgrading its defenses. Wooden walls had been replaced with stone. Fortresses bristled with crossbows and catapults. Duke Leszek the Black, a seasoned warrior, positioned his main army, ready to strike when the moment was right. The stage was set for a clash of titans. On December 7, 1287, Talabuga's northern column crossed the border. They bypassed the city of Lublin and made for the Vistula River. But an unseasonably warm winter meant the river wasn't frozen. Forced to search for a ford, they headed south and laid siege to the formidable fortress of Sandomierz. They threw themselves against the walls, but the polished defenders held strong, beating back the assault. Frustrated, Talabuga abandoned the siege, leaving some of his Ruthenian allies behind while his main force broke into smaller raiding parties to plunder the region. This decision to disperse would prove to be a fatal mistake. While raiding near the Świerczyk Mountains, Talabuga's main column walked straight into an ambush. On December 20th, Duke Leszek the Black, at the head of a powerful Polish army, slammed into the unsuspecting Mongols. The Battle of Wago was a stunning and decisive victory for the Poles. The Mongol column was shattered. Battered and blooded, Talabuga gathered what little loot and remaining forces he had and began a long, humiliating retreat back to his winter camps. The northern prong of the Mongol invasion had been broken. Now, all eyes turned south. Just as the northern threat was collapsing, the southern one began. On Christmas Eve, 1287, Nogai Khan's 10,000 horsemen appeared before the walls of Kraków. This was the jewel of Poland, the royal capital, but Kraków was no longer an easy prize. It now boasted a stone castle and formidable defenses. Nogai launched a furious assault, but the city's garrison repelled the attack, inflicting heavy casualties on the Mongols and even killing several of their commanders. Stunned by the fierce resistance, Nogai was forced to change his plan. Like Talabuga, he split his army into smaller detachments to plunder the surrounding lands. While his warriors spread terror through the villages north and south of the capital, other Mongol columns laid siege to the fortified towns of Podolinek and Starysach. It seemed like a repeat of past invasions, a slow, grinding devastation of the countryside. But the Poles had an ace up their sleeve. While the sieges dragged on, Duke Leszek and his wife slipped out of Poland and made a desperate journey to the neighboring kingdom of Hungary. He pleaded for help from King Ladislas IV, a man who knew the Mongol threat all too well, having defeated his own Mongol invasion just 2 years earlier. The Hungarian king agreed. He dispatched a relief force under the command of a nobleman named George of Savar. This Hungarian army, joined by local Polish fighters, marched with incredible speed. They fell upon a detached Mongol army of 1,000 men that was besieging Starysach. The surprise was total. The Battle of Starysach was not a battle, it was an annihilation. The Mongol force was wiped out to a man, its commander killed in the chaos. This was the final nail in the coffin of the Mongol campaign. When news of this disaster reached Nogai Khan, he knew the game was up. His forces were dispersed, the northern army was gone, and now a combined Polish-Hungarian army was bearing down on him. Recognizing the trap closing around him, Nogai gathered his remaining troops and began a hasty retreat from Poland. By late January 1288, he was back in Ruthenia, his grand invasion a complete and utter failure. So, why did this invasion fail so spectacularly when the previous two had been so devastating? First, the rivalry between the two Mongol commanders, Talabuga and Nogai, meant their armies never truly cooperated. The northern column was already in retreat before the southern column had even begun its main assault. Second, and most importantly, the Poles had adapted. Their new, stronger fortifications denied the Mongols easy victories and bought precious time. This allowed them to execute a brilliant three-stage defense. First, hold the forts. Second, use local forces to harass and pick off smaller Mongol raiding parties. And third, deliver a knockout blow with a large combined army against the weakened and dispersed invaders. The third Mongol invasion was a turning point. It proved that the Mongols, while still fearsome, were not invincible. They could be beaten with smart strategy, strong walls, and unbreakable courage. And out of the fire of this conflict, a beloved legend was born in Kraków. The story goes that during the siege, a brave group of citizens snuck out of the city and launched a surprise raid on the Mongol camp, killing several generals. Their leader then put on the captured commander's ornate clothes and rode back into the city, a symbol of victory. To this day, the city of Kraków celebrates this moment with the Legnica festival, where a man dressed as a Mongol warrior dances through the streets. It's a living reminder of a time when Poland faced the world's most terrifying army and emerged victorious. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories of forgotten battles and incredible history. We'll see you in the next one.